My sister got the birthday trip of a lifetime. Me, I got a bill tucked inside a card. You owe us for everything, Dad said. I just walked out. Now they're practically begging me to come back, saying I got the wrong idea. This all started about a month ago for Clara's 25th. I'm 27, and things between us have been tricky, you know. It's gotten worse in the last few years. I didn't think I'd get anything fancy, but the way my family handled it all completely blindsided me. Let me paint you a picture first. Growing up, Clara was the princess. I know it's a cliché, but she really was. She was practically flawless. She was smart, played all the sports, and was just gorgeous. She got straight A's, went to a fancy school, and now she's got a great job at a tech company. As for me, I'm more of a quiet type. I never really fit the perfect image. I went to the local college, worked at a coffee shop, and I've been struggling to find something that really fits. I'm happy, but it's like I've always been measured against Clara. It gets under your skin, you know? So back to her birthday. My parents, my dad especially, had been plotting this for months. Clara always wanted to go to Hawaii. She would not stop talking about it. So I guess they decided to make it happen. They booked this dream vacation for her, the all-inclusive kind with a fancy hotel, tour, the whole 9 yards. I knew this was gonna be a whole thing since my folks love to brag about how well they're doing, especially when Clara's involved. And my gift, too. I didn't want anything fancy. Honestly, a small little thing would have been fine. But I didn't think they'd just completely forget I existed. They didn't even say happy birthday to me a month before, but I just brushed it off. But Clara, she gets a freaking all-inclusive vacation. So at her party, they gave her this gigantic envelope. My dad had this look on his face like he'd just won something while Clara tore it open. Her eyes went huge and she started bouncing around when she saw what the trip was. It was kinda sweet, I guess, but at the same time, I just felt this awful feeling in my stomach like it wasn't fair. After the party was over, my parents called me over to the living room. I wasn't really expecting anything, but I figured I should at least say something about Clara's gift. They gave me a card, just a plain, regular card, but when I opened it, I felt sick. It was an invoice. Seriously, I thought I was gonna faint. The bill was for everything they'd ever given me. School stuff, birthday gifts, food, clothes, like everything they'd ever spent on me. They'd added it all up item by item, and it came out to almost 50 grand. I looked at my dad, and he was just sitting there waiting to see what I'd do. "You owe us," he said, his voice totally flat. "You've taken so much and never given back." Right then, the whole world tilted. I almost laughed. It was so crazy, but it stung too. The way he just tossed it out there, so offhand, like I was some overdue bill, it hit me in the stomach. Mom was right next to him, and she didn't say a word, just nodded like this was everyday stuff. Clara was in the other room, still excited about her trip, clueless about the whole thing. My mind was spinning. "What is this?" I finally choked out, feeling my face get hot. "Are you being serious?" Dad nodded. "We've done more than enough, and we're done supporting you with nothing in return. We expect you to pay this back." He stopped, then tacked on, "Think of it as a wake-up call." I thought I'd explode, the sheer audacity of it, of both of them, honestly. But I couldn't stick around. I snatched the card and threw it on the table. "I'm not doing this," I said, fighting to keep my voice level. "I'm not paying you back for your so-called generosity. You've never supported me, and now you want money for your supposed love." I got up to leave, but Dad yelled after me, "Don't walk away from this, Mia. This is your responsibility now." I didn't care. I walked out and slammed the door. I drove to a friend's and just sat there trying to wrap my head around it. It felt like a bad dream. I've never felt so completely alone. After I stormed out, the next few days were a total mess. My phone blew up with texts and calls from my parents, but I just wouldn't answer. I was still so ticked off. Then, things started getting really strange. Clara called me, practically bawling, saying I had it all wrong. She said Dad was just bummed about the birthday and that I was making a big deal out of nothing. She kept saying they didn't want any money from me, that it was all a big joke. But I wasn't buying it. Why on earth would they send me a bill like that if they weren't serious? Then Dad started calling, leaving me voicemails. He was saying he was sorry that I was being too sensitive. He told me I needed to face reality and that family is the most important thing. But it all felt so phony. He didn't even sound like he meant it, more like he was just trying to get me to believe I was the one in the wrong. They were so eager to patch things up, but I didn't know what to do. I needed some time to think. Those days after leaving their house were like a fog. I crashed at my friend Leela's place for a few days. She was one of the few people who actually understood how frustrated I'd been feeling for ages. She just let me rant about my parents, about how I was always second fiddle, always ignored, always shoved aside. Leela was the kind of friend who didn't try to solve anything. She just let me talk it all out. And for once, I didn't feel like I was losing it for being upset. The quiet after all those calls and texts from my parents didn't last long, not even a few days. My mom was the first one to crack. One night, I got a voicemail from her, and honestly, she sounded so pathetic, like I'd never heard her before. "Mia," she started, her voice all shaky. "Honey, please come home. Your father didn't mean it. You've got it all wrong. We're just worried about you. You know you've always been so independent, but we wanted what was best for you." She continued, "We don't want you to think you owe us anything, sweetie. You're our daughter. Please just come talk to us." I couldn't help but roll my eyes when I listened to her. Misunderstood? Seriously, they knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't some accidental slip-up or a bad joke. Nope, it was a full-blown guilt trip trying to get me to cave and do what they wanted. They were trying to make me feel like I was responsible for every dime they'd spent on me. The next day, Clara texted me. She was pretending everything was fine, like nothing had even happened. But it was obvious she was trying to smooth things over. "Hey, I know things have been a little rough, but please don't be mad," she wrote. "You have to understand that Mom and Dad just want what's best for you. They're just stressed. And I think they might have gone a little too far with that invoice thing. I'm sure it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. Can we talk?" I just stared at that message like forever. Clara, she was always the perfect one, you know. The one who could never do anything wrong. And now she's dragged me into their mess, too. I didn't want to fight with her, but honestly, it felt like I'd spent my whole life in her shadow. I couldn't shake this bitterness, this resentment over how she always got away with everything, even this. So I didn't text her back right away. I needed a minute, but then later Dad called again. And this time I picked up. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I was dying to see how far he'd take this. "Mia," he said, all calm now, no more yelling. "We need to talk." He went on, "Look, I know you're mad, but this isn't about the money. This is about you growing up, taking responsibility. We've given you everything, and we need to see you can handle things on your own." He said it like I was a weight on his shoulders, a huge investment that needed a return. It made my stomach churn. The nerve, he sounded so entitled. He's supposed to be my dad, but all he saw was some kind of payback, not a daughter. Like I owed him for everything, not out of love, but like I was his property or something. My voice shook as I asked him, "Is this really how you want me to feel? You want me to pay you back for your generosity, to feel like a debt instead of your daughter? Is that it?" Silence hung in the air on the other end. I could practically hear him picking his words. At last, he spoke, and his voice was like ice. "You're overreacting," he said. "This isn't about the past, Mia. It's about your future. You need to grow up and be responsible." "Responsible?" I scoffed. "By paying you back for everything. For stuff I never even asked for. I don't need your okay. I never have." Another long beat of silence, then a heavy sigh. "This can't go on, Mia. If you don't get serious, you'll be sorry, and don't think we'll just stop caring about you because you don't agree with us." That was when it hit me. Nothing would ever be the same after that. We weren't a family anymore. It was a deal, a transaction. They didn't care about love or backing me up. It was all about power, and they were using guilt to keep me in line. After that phone call, I couldn't go back. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was how they'd twisted everything, how they always made me feel like I wasn't good enough. It was the constant expectation I'd jump through hoops for their approval, the idea they could buy my love and respect. But even then, they wouldn't quit. Clara called again the next day, sounding super worried now. "Mia, you gotta get it. It's not like Dad's trying to be mean, okay? He's just really stressed about work and he doesn't know how to deal. Please, don't shut us out." They were saying family, but it didn't feel real anymore. It felt empty when it came out of her mouth. Honestly, I thought Clara was just repeating what they told her, trying to reel me back in to be the perfect little girl who always did what they wanted. I had a choice to make. I couldn't go back to being that daughter who just took whatever, the one who stayed quiet while they played their games. But I also wasn't sure how far I could push it. I needed a way out, but I was terrified of losing everything. That's when I started thinking about what I could do. What if I could turn this around? What if I could make them see how wrong they were? But I knew it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. They weren't just going to give up their control that easily. The next few days felt like I was in some weird in-between state. I was stuck between trying to keep my head up and dealing with all the pressure from my family. I wasn't just mad anymore. I was confused, worn out, and to be honest, a little bit scared. It's one thing when your parents are controlling, but it's a whole different ballgame when they start treating you like you're some kind of bill that needs to be paid. And the worst part was that Clara, my own sister, was right in the middle of all of it. After Dad's last phone call, I decided I needed to get away. I crashed at Leela's for another week, just trying to clear my head. The thought of going back always made my stomach churn. That's just family, though, right? You can't simply disappear. It feels like a total betrayal letting them down like that. And man, that's exactly how I felt for a long time. But then something shifted inside me. It hit me. Their treatment of me wasn't my fault. I'd spent years jumping through hoops, trying to meet their impossible expectations, desperately trying to win their approval, and it was never enough. Why bother chasing something I could never reach? Not long after, Clara contacted me again. But this time, she didn't text or call. She just showed up at Leela's, standing there on the porch with that sorry look she always gets when she's trying to make amends. Totally unexpected. She was holding a coffee like that would magically fix everything. Mia let her in and Clara started coming inside. "Can we talk?" she asked. "I know you're mad, but Dad didn't mean it the way you think. Please don't shut us out." I let out a big sigh, the frustration boiling over. Clara was always the peacemaker, the one who could smooth things over with a smile and the right words. But this felt different. There was no fixing this. "Clara," I said, "how many times do I have to say it? You don't get it. It's not about that invoice or the trip. It's everything. I've been trying my whole life to make things right, but it's never enough." "I'm so done." Clara fidgeted, messing with her hair. "I get that you're mad, but we've always tried to be there for you, you know. You can't just cut us off because of one screw-up. One screw-up." That felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just one thing. It was a whole lifetime of it. A lifetime of making me feel like I wasn't good enough, never loved or supported the way Clara always was. "Clara, this isn't just one mistake," I choked out, my voice all shaky. "You've always been their golden child, and I've been the extra. Don't you see it? Whenever anything went wrong, they expected me to clean up the mess or just vanish. And now they act like I'm in debt to them. Like I owe them for every second of my existence. Can't you see that?" Clara started to speak, but she stopped. I saw the struggle in her eyes, like she didn't know what to say. Maybe she did see it. Maybe she just couldn't face it. The air got thick and heavy, this awkward silence hanging between us. Finally, she spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "I'm sorry, Mia. I know it hasn't been easy, but please don't let this ruin everything. We're family." I shook my head, fighting back the tears. "No, Clara, this isn't about family anymore. It's about control, you know. How they wanted to shove me into a box I just couldn't squeeze into. I don't need their love if it comes with all these conditions." I was pacing, feeling like I was about to explode. They always made me feel like I owed them everything. And now they want to make it all official. They want me to pay up. "I'm not doing it, Clara. I just can't." Clara's face just fell, and I could see the guilt washing over her. She looked so conflicted, like she didn't know whether to stick with me or go back to our parents and play the game they always wanted. "Mia, please don't leave it like this. You're my sister, you're my family, and I don't want to lose you over this," she begged, her voice cracking. I stopped, taking a huge breath. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about her too. I didn't want to lose Clara, but I couldn't keep letting them walk all over me just to keep the peace. I needed to do something to finally show them they couldn't treat me this way. "I'm not going back, Clara," I said, the words final. "I can't pretend everything's okay. I have to make them understand how wrong they are. This isn't even about money anymore. It's about respect, and they've never respected me." She just stared at me, her eyes filled with sadness, but I could see a little spark of understanding in them. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to get it. "I'll talk to them," she whispered, all quiet and calm. "But please don't do anything crazy. Let's work this out together." I just kind of stared into space. What else was there to say, really? She did things her own way, and honestly, I wasn't sure I could count on her to fix anything. Still, at that moment, knowing I wasn't facing this alone felt huge. A few days passed, and the phone rang again, my parents. This time, though, I was ready for them. I answered, bracing myself for their usual guilt trip, for them to make me feel like I was the bad guy. But they totally flipped the script on me. "Mia," my dad said, his voice like ice. "We're let down, but we'll drop it if you just do the right thing." My heart hammered. This was it, the make or break moment. I had to choose, keep walking away or let them back in on their terms. "Do the right thing," I repeated, a bitter laugh bubbling up. "I've been doing the right thing my whole life. Maybe it's time you learned you can't control me anymore." Their words hung heavy in the air, but I wouldn't let them manipulate me anymore. That's the thing about family, you know? They think they can get away with anything. Just because they've known you forever, they think they can guilt you into doing whatever they want, no consequences. But this was the moment I realized I was done playing their game. I was so done being their emotional punching bag. No more letting them treat me like I was nothing, some pest they could shove around whenever they felt like it. I had to take charge, and I figured out how. First thing, I gathered every single thing I could find, every text, email, piece of paper, anything that showed how they'd messed with me all those years. It wasn't just about that vacation or some stupid invoice. It was about everything. All the sneaky ways they'd tried to keep me down, to make me feel worthless unless I was doing something for them. They always made me feel like I had to earn their approval, and I'd let them get away with it for way too long. But those days were over. I started with the house. My parents always tried to guilt-trip me about moving out. "You'll regret this." they'd say, acting like they owned my future. But they had no idea what I was up to. I wasn't just going to vanish on them like I had before. I had a plan to show them exactly what it felt like to be treated that way. And it was gonna sting. So I called a lawyer. It wasn't some crazy, dramatic revenge thing at first. I wasn't looking for a huge, over-the-top showdown. But I wanted them to know there were consequences for what they'd done. I started digging into the legal stuff, the money they'd spent on me, the property they'd pushed me to pay for. So there were these investments they'd made for me, supposedly, but they never actually told me anything. I needed to know exactly where I stood, legally speaking. If they thought they could pull that "you owe us" crap, I was ready to fight back. For a few weeks, I kept everything totally quiet, just watched. Waited for my chance. Meanwhile, the phone calls and texts were non-stop. My parents were freaking out, their messages getting more and more desperate, like they could feel the power slipping away. Every single time my dad called, it was the same old song and dance. "Mia, this isn't about the past. We just want what's best for you. Please, honey, don't be so stubborn." But I was done playing along. I saw right through their fake concern, their phony tone. They weren't trying to help. They were trying to manipulate me, control me. Then, bam, the perfect chance came up. They had no idea I'd already gotten legal advice, no clue about the steps I was taking to protect myself. They still thought they had me right where they wanted, all tangled up in guilt and feeling like I owed them something. But oh, that was about to change. Recently, my parents poured a ton of money into a new project, something they'd been planning for years. It was their big break, their retirement dream, whatever they wanted to call it. And for ages, they'd been dropping hints about how I was supposed to be involved, how I'd supposedly profit from it. They even casually let slip how much they expected me to chip in. I knew the real deal, though. They hadn't really included me in anything important. They'd kept the whole story from me, never telling me how much money they'd sunk in or what the risks were. They just saw me as a way to make a buck, something to cash in on later. So I decided to do something about it. I grabbed the legal papers I'd collected, the ones showing how they'd invested my future, and called a financial advisor. I needed to know exactly what they'd done, what was rightfully mine and what was theirs. Then I went ahead and asked for a full audit of their business. It was a move designed to make them squirm, to force them to spill everything. My parents were totally shocked when they got the audit request. They had no clue what I was up to. My dad called me right away after seeing the notice. "Mia, what's this?" he yelled, his voice all shaky and mad. "You can't just go demanding audits. This is family, not some business deal." I gave him a tiny, icy smile. "You're right, Dad," I said. "It is family, but that doesn't mean I'm going to pretend everything you've done is okay. You made me feel like I owed you my whole life. Now I'm just making sure everything's out in the open. You wanted me to pay up. Well, now it's your turn to answer some questions." It was like something finally clicked. For the first time, I felt like I had some control. They weren't calling the shots anymore, they were on the defensive. Later, my mom called. Her voice was all sweet and soft, but I could still hear that edge underneath. "Mia," she said, "you've got it all wrong. You don't have to go through with this. Please, honey, let's just talk. We're not asking for much. We just want what's good for you, what's good for the family." My stomach was twisting, but I tried to sound firm. "Mom," I said, "if you really wanted what was best for me, you wouldn't have treated me like a doormat my whole life. You wouldn't have made me feel like I was nothing but a problem. You wouldn't have kept me clueless about everything important." I told her, "I'm not giving in this time. You're going to have to deal with what you've done." She didn't say a word. That's when I knew it was hitting them. They'd totally misjudged me. They figured I'd just back down, that I'd fall for their phony apologies and empty promises. But here's the thing. I wasn't the same person I was a few weeks back. I was tougher now, and I was going to make damn sure they understood that. See, it turned out they'd put me down as a silent partner in their investment without breathing a word of it to me. Legally, I owned part of the property they used to get the loan, and because they'd used my name and credit score on some of the documents, they'd broken a whole bunch of rules. I didn't even need to go to court. Just the audit itself was enough to get their creditors freaking out. Their whole retirement plan went belly up, their money completely frozen. The bank insisted on a full-blown investigation, and so my lawyer right there beside me, I officially cut all ties with the business. I also demanded they pay me back for using my credit without my permission. My lawyer made sure everything was legally bulletproof. My parents were furious. My dad called me a rat. My mom was sobbing, begging me not to destroy them. But I didn't feel a bit of remorse, not 1 ounce. I wasn't trying to be mean, I was protecting myself. They were the ones who took advantage of me. Finally, I was standing up for myself. Clara tried to smooth things over, but even she couldn't ignore the evidence once she saw the whole mess they'd created. Even she quietly admitted they'd been wrong. She didn't exactly cut them out of her life, but she definitely distanced herself. We still chat sometimes, but it's not the same, and maybe that's okay. As for me, I'm in a little apartment, finally having some peace and quiet. I'm building my own life now. My own job, my own money, my own rules. No guilt, no drama, no more invoices hidden in birthday cards. I haven't talked to my parents since the whole thing was settled. They lost the business. Their house is on the market. Last I heard, they were still blaming me to anyone who would listen. But honestly, I don't care anymore.